G'day everyone. We're actually in this lovely, real grungy location where we're going to shoot today. I'm just going to be using the a7 III, and I've got the baddest, the 85mm, and I'm also going to use the Sony 35mm just to get a different perspective. So they're the two lenses that I'm going to use. I'm also going to use natural light, so I'm not going to use flash at all today. We're just going to see what we can get out of natural light from here. Now there's plenty of light streaming in from the sides and also from the back through here too, so we should have plenty. So we'll see how we go. All right, 400th, 0.8. So I've got to make sure I don't blow out the highlights. And let me just check how that looks. Yeah, that's really pretty. All right, so I'm on the 35 now. I'm going to shoot 1.4 and I'm on 1/400th of a second. And I'm going to shoot this. So this one now is more environmental because I'm getting more of the whole background in here. Just to get a different look. Beautiful. Now stay there because I'll show what this is like, the compression of this when we get reasonably tight in here. Bring your face a little bit that way, that's it. Yeah. So this will sort of show you the fall off you can get at 1.8. Beautiful. Lovely. Okay.
I can try if you let me. With our lives I am bleeding. Who am I without stories that aren't mine? What I did to achieve you gave me air, thought I had to. I'm untrue, it's not pretty, the truth hurts. And you stayed on the ground while I was high. Yes, you've been here before, you closed the door. Now I don't know what to say, I expect you to leave. I deserve to be unheard, but I want you to see that you are the reason why I try. I don't know what you're thinking, but I know how you're feeling. I have crushed and burned someone before. And now I'm afraid of the person I'm pretending to be, but I'm more afraid to tell you I'm less than you see. And I know when I let go right now, I'm gonna turn you against me. 'Cause baby, you stayed on the ground while I was high. Yes, you've been here before, you closed the door. Now I don't know what to say, I expect you to leave. I deserve to be unheard, but I want you to see that you are the reason why I try. 'Cause it's the look in your eyes filled with doubts, and I'm scared. I am trying my very best to make it okay, but do you even care anymore?
Well, let's go. Welcome everyone, here for our live Sony Alpha News and Rumours show. Thank you RVG1, said very nice intro, David. I always like doing the videos because look, I'm so proud of all the videos that I've taken over the years, and it's great to be able to sort of show them again because they just get lost in the I don't know, the internet there, YouTube, and you know, I love that one particularly. I think that is one of my best that I've ever produced in those. The images from that shoot are just stunning. I should share a lot more of them actually. It was great. Aaron said, love the blonde beard. Thanks, Aaron. You must have the correct calibrated monitor. How are you saying blonde beard? Some people say it's white, and we know that it's not white, it's blonde. So let's see what people are saying. Let me go over to the chat because we're in pre-show at the moment. Guys, if you don't want to watch the whole of this, you can just scroll down below at the end of the show if you're not watching live, and I will have a timeline that sort of lists everything. So that'll all be down there. We should only be on, I have to be out by 11 today, so I've only got an hour to do today because I've got an appointment after that. So I have to keep an eye on the time. So we have to sort of watch that as we're going on. So let's see who's here anyway. And why is that? I've got to move that a fraction. There. Look at that. Perfect. The old A6400. Woohoo! So RGV1 is here. Well, I laughed. Someone said we got a thumb down before we even started. Now I've got 2 thumbs down. I love the haters. They crack me up. Let's go back to here. I said laugh out loud haters in there because that's why I said it. Because Raymond said, okay, who's the thumbs down guy? Oh, I love it when you get the thumbs down before you've even started the show, though. It's a crack up. I mean, obviously they hate me and they still watch. It cracks me up. Julian says, I gave 5 thumbs up today. What else have we got? A7C with silver looks nice. Yeah, I'm going to discuss that today. We're going to look at it, quite extensively, actually, look at what's released. I'm going to be live. We'll do a live show with Aaron when it's actually announced next week. So we'll do that on the live show with Aaron next week. So that should be fun. Raymond said, with that lens, it looks a lot like my RX1, R Mark II. Aaron said he's pre-ordered 2 of them, 1 for each colour. I think he's just stirring you guys. Limited edition Oyster Blue made just for David. Well, let me put that up too. I've been keeping up with the rumours on the A7 III, but broke down this week and got the A7R4 with my A9 for wildlife shooting. I do very little video. Well, you can't go wrong with what you've got there. I mean, the A7R4 for that sort of stuff is amazing. We just got a donation already. I can't believe it. Johnson City Aerial Photography gave me $4.99 United States dollars and said, good day. Thank you so much for that, mate. Really, really appreciate it. We are in pre-show, guys, too. So you think they'll do a limited edition Oyster Blue for me, do you? Sounds good. Most people on forums are treating the release of this camera like the ZV-1, and I'll talk about that when it comes up. I don't think, look, it's not for me, and I'll admit that up front, and I discussed that with Aaron, but Sony have got no problem in releasing it. If you don't want it, you just don't buy it. That's the way I look at it. I want to see about the A7 IV, and that's how it's going to pan out. Yeah, well, that's what I would be waiting on too. The killer for me with this A7C is the 1 card slot. And I think you're going to find it's probably got the exact same sensors as the A7 III, but we'll talk about that as the first story today. So let's see what we find out when we do that. I couldn't be happy with my A7R2. That's also a great camera. I still think the price of the A7C is going to be lower than the rumours say. Well, I certainly hope so because it's way overpriced at what they're saying at the moment. Raymond said, for social media, I'm hoping that the S3 at least trumps what you can do with the iPhone. Because that will be my only interchangeable lens camera I own for now. You're saying the A7S III? Well, that certainly will be able to do more than what the iPhone can, that's for sure. So g'day, Aaron. G'day, Sizzle Man. How are you, Kevin? Dana said hello from Southeast Florida. Raymond said, when it focuses right, my RX1 still takes some damn fine pictures. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that camera. Plantation, Florida here. John said, after 2-week delay due to a dealer screw-up, I finally got my R6 today. Congratulations, John. You must be really happy with that camera. It seems like it's a great camera indeed. Chris said, hello, David. Nice but smoky day in Los Angeles. Yeah, thinking about you guys. You guys are going through what we went through last year. So I know exactly what it's like. How'd you like this? This is from judging a competition. Just see if I can get it. That was in 2000. Did that. Cool though, isn't it? And they put the little thing on the front. Just gave it to me as a gift for doing it. Where are we? So, yeah, I'm thinking about you, Chris. Just everyone stay safe. I know exactly what it's like. We'll probably go through the same thing this year as well. We always have big bushfires here. Raymond, I love David's pre-show stuff. Great. Thank you so much, Raymond. Yeah, like I said, I love re-showing them because they just get lost. And I think I'm not being boasting, but I think they're too nice to never see again. So it's nice having that to be able to play while I'm getting ready and letting people know that we're on live. So it works out well. Ike Sleepy. What else? Raymond said, and being here is becoming a Friday evening favourite activity. Greetings, everyone. Like the song with the video. Haven't heard it before. It is a lovely song, that one. I got that one from the place I always get the thing from. Let me just open it up. It's from Epidemic Sound. So that's where I got that from. I can't remember the name of it though. It'd be on the bottom of the that video, I would think. I usually list the songs I've used on the bottom. Very nice intro, David. Thank you very much. Aaron said, "Is it the intro? It's the intro time to get your bathroom break on. Wake me up with the rumour, please. Love the blonde beard. Like I said, Aaron's monitor is calibrated correctly." David, you're my best inspiration. Thank you so much, Raymond. I really appreciate that. Hopefully I'll be able to get out to do some shooting soon. I believe that we're going to be taken out of lockdown this coming week in the country, Victoria. So Melbourne is still going to be in lockdown, but I'm going to come out of lockdown. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do some shoots again in the coming days because I've got so much stuff to review as well. And I want to get back to shooting models and stuff like that so I can post it for you guys. So hopefully that will happen this week. G'day, Steve. G'day, Mark. How are you? Hi, Jim. I wasn't sure if I said it before. David said, hi, David. Happy weekend. Same to you. Kerry's out doing the shopping at the moment. This is good doing the lives at this time. Then I don't have to go shopping. I love it. Where else are we? Ariel City was here as well. He gave me that lovely donation. Stephen Black's here as well. Minnie is from Florida as well. Jim said, I want an animated cartoon with those gimbals. It looks like they are frozen in a dance step to YMCA. I know, all back there. I know. I just got a new one the other day as well. What was it? This one. Bing. It's just another one I thought I'd add to the collection. That one got sent to me though, so. But I certainly do love looking at gimbals, and I'm lucky because I get a lot of people sending them to me, so that's great. Thumbs up or down, YouTube algorithms don't care. And that's right, exactly, John. That's why I laugh when people give me thumbs down, like I've got 4 now. They don't realise they're giving you your analytics. It helps your analytics, and they don't realise that, so it's quite funny. John said, thumbs down is as good. It's all about engagement. I know, that's true. That's what they don't realise. The haters don't realise that. That's what cracks me up. I just found out I won a ticket to London, Ontario Air Show for Sunday. Should be a good way to test out my a7 III and my 100-400. How good is that? Rob, let me just check. Someone else gave me a donation. Moving Matt, did you hear about the possibility of a 14-inch Apple Silicon MacBook Pro on September the 15th? Yes, I did. Actually, I have heard about that. Not sure yet what the processor will be. It's probably going to be that A14X, whatever it is, chip that's will be sort of an updated version for the iPhone. But I have heard that could possibly be announced on the 14th. Yes, I'm looking at getting a new computer. I did put a video up just the other day. It's the one before this one that shows everything I use in my studio setup for doing these live shows. So if you haven't watched it, watch that. But excuse me, I've got Milo burps. I've got a Mac Pro, and I'm going to update, but I'm waiting for them to bring out these new ARM processor MacBooks or iMacs. So I'm still waiting on that. So the 14-inch could be interesting, but I've got a feeling that I probably will skip that one, moving Matt, and just wait a little bit longer to see what they do with graphics and stuff. Although that one may be an incredible buy. If it's an incredible buy, it might be that I get it. So I'll just wait and see what goes on there. What else have we got? Sean said, help me decide between the 90mm macro and the Rockion 85 1.4. Well, it really depends if you'd like to do more macro, Sean. The 90mm, that's the Sony, is an incredibly sharp lens. It's a great lens, actually. If you want a lens that can do sort of portraits as well as macro, I'd go with the 90. If you don't do much macro photography at all, you could then go with the 85 1.4. Heroes here as well. Johnson City said, considering selling my A9 for the A4 arrives with the new menu system, touch, etc. Love my A9, but some of the new features would be nice. It would have to be an amazing camera for me to sell my A9. Sweet mug, thank you, Aaron. A7 IV, yeah, I knew that's what you meant though. Well, just wait and see. I mean, you've got a while yet before you have to decide, but like I said, it would have to be an amazing camera for me to sell my A9. But that's probably understandable if it offers similar things. Remember, the A9 is the difference is it's the sensor that's still in that. There's nothing quite like the sensor of the A9 that's out there for its speed. There's no guarantee that the A7 IV will have the same sort of speed and everything like that has if you're doing the 20 frames per second. It's the lack of rolling shutter on that camera that's the big difference. It's also the ability to go to 1/32,000th of a second as well, which you can't do. You're linked to 1/8,000th of a second on those normal cameras. So having that ability to me is still a game changer, and I love having that ability to shoot, say, 1.4 and go up to 1/32,000th of a second in daylight, as I shoot a lot of daylight stuff now, and then have that ability to shoot low depth of field or shallow depth of field. So there's some things where you have to consider whether you would still keep your A9 as well. If you want the 20 frames per second without the rolling shutter, etc., I think you might still have to keep it. It just depends, but we'll have to wait and see. If you want more of a hybrid type camera though, one that would give you really good stills but also really good video, I think the A7 IV is going to be the one that you'd want to get. TNB also said, "G'day, David." G'day. Ain't that cool? No, it's not water slide. This is water slide. Yeah, it's a hot day. So that's water slide. I got to shoot tomorrow. Yippee. Oh, you're so lucky, Aaron. Like I said, hopefully in another week, I'll be able to get out and do some shooting. So I'm really excited about that. I can't wait, actually. Shopping sucks. I know, Aaron. That's why I'm so happy I'm coming in here. John, if David's beard is blonde, his hair is transparent. John, you seriously need to calibrate your monitor. Brett said, I'll wait for the A7 IV. If the A7 IV is a major upgrade, I'll sell the A7 II and the A7 III, even though the value has dropped in price. Yeah, well, I've got two A7 IIIs. So if I do get the A7S III, I will sell one of my A7 IIIs. And probably a lens, and then I won't have to pay anything for it. It'll basically pay for itself. Jim said, Bing is talking about, oh, the horror, another gimbal. Yeah, I know. I can picture David on a Harley now with that beard. Dave's new slogan for his intro should be Beard Gang. Do you think I should get a Harley? Kerry would be saying I'm going through a midlife crisis. I love it. I answered that one about moving, Matt. Thank you for the donation, though, mate. Really appreciate it. Jeff said, hi, David from Pennsylvania. Langston's in here as well. It should be the ARM. Yeah, it will be. That 14-inch Apple will be the ARM processor. It just depends on what the graphics side works like, though, before I make a decision. Pratrap said, hi, David. What's your opinion about Capture One? I bought it, but I've never used it. I've never put it on. It's on the computer. I've opened it once and never used it. So, look, I can't really comment about it. The problem for me is I'm just so linked into Lightroom, and I use the toolbox and other things that sort of work with it, that I just haven't sort of changed over. I love the cataloging and things, so I don't think I'll change for a while, and it's already included in the photography package that I get with Photoshop and Lightroom anyway, so I haven't moved over to that. But Capture One seems to work unbelievably well with Sony's though. That display of gimbals looks like a shadow theatre performance. I love it. Is the a7C supposed to be considered an upgrade from the a7 III? I'm going to talk about that now in the first story. All right, guys. So let's get started. Let me just put in the show start time here. 20. Oh, it's actually 21. Let me just do 21. Okay, let's get started, guys.
If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over, we can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. Water slide. Surfing on a wave of good feelings.
Well, welcome everyone. Got a fairly quick show today. I'm only going to be here roughly about 45 minutes. I've got to be out by 11, so we've got 45 minutes to get through the stuff. But look, there's not massive amounts to sort of discuss today. I'm going to talk about the a7c announcement and look at some of the images that have been announced and discuss that with you all. So, and also about some of the leaks and stuff as well. And then what we'll do is I'm also going to sort of talk about some news some as well, a few things that sort of were talked about over the last few days. With the announcement of the a7c, I will discuss that with Aaron next week. We'll do a live show going through the actual release, so we can talk about the camera then. So we'll do a live show on that too. So let's start by looking at. By the way, if I just did post a video, I think yesterday or the day before, which was going through my whole studio setup. So if you are interested in how you can stream live or even do recordings and things like that, please watch that video, because I took you through everything, including the hardware and the software. So if you haven't looked at that video, please check it out. I'm just laughing here. As the intro plays, all I heard in my head is the Beard Gang. I love it. All right. Is anyone watching Cobra Kai? I've been watching that. I love that show. How good is that show? If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. If you used to watch Karate Kids or Karate Kid, this is like going back into the 70s. It's like 80s. It sort of takes me right back to when I was in the 80s, and the things that go on in that show are unbelievable. Look, not fantastic acting and everything else, but it's just a great show. So if you haven't watched it, I can recommend Cobra Kai. All right, so let's go through the first story today, 2350. Let me pop over to here. And let's go to this. So first thing I wanted to sort of look about, there's been some release of images of the camera now. So we know now how this is going to look. And it sort of looks like an RX1. I've just got to show this because Moving Matt just gave me a donation too. Nice studio walkthrough. Have you ever considered doing a creative type masterclass for photo videographers, YouTube hopefuls? Maybe a Patreon perk. Yeah, it could be something. I have got Patreon. I must do some more with Patreon actually, but at the moment they're just supporting me while I'm trying to build that up. And I'm really appreciative of the guys that support me in Patreon. So thank you so much. That could be something that we could do in Patreon or something else. So thank you so much though for the donation there though, mate. So let me just come back to here to show this. So this is the first. I wanted to show this because it shows it in your hand and it gives you an idea about the hand size. I don't mind it. I quite like the look of the dual color. The only thing is, looking at this one, I think they probably should have made the EVF in the same color as the top, the same silver. I think that would have looked much nicer if they were going to do that. Some people are sort of looking at saying they don't like it. I actually like the color of the silver top more than the plain black one. I'll show you some other images soon so we can look through that. But looking at it, it looks very, very similar in size to an A6 600. People were talking about whether they were putting the old battery in because they didn't think that the grip was big enough, but it is, because all we keep hearing is that the specs are going to be the Z battery that's in this, and I'll show it because there has been a couple of updates on the specs over the last few days. But I quite like the look of it. I mean, I think it looks reasonably quite nice. Nice and small. The weight, I suppose, is the big factor here between this and something else. But let me go on to another thing where I can show you this. And let me show you the additional specs that have been announced over the last couple of days. And I will talk about Venom, about the price of this as well, which I think is a bit crazy. Let me just mark there so I know where we're up to. So additional specs have been leaked. It's saying down here now that Nakashita has confirmed that the A7C specs we already leaked ago, but they've added a minor specs to them, basically. So they're saying the interesting thing is the size and weight. The weight is 509 grams. Now, I looked at what the A6 600 is, and the A6 600, including the batteries, is 503. If you were sort of after a comparison about how these two cameras sort of varied between each other. So you're looking at 503 grams. That would be without the lens though, but it's including the batteries. So I'm not sure whether that I suppose that would be without the battery, I would think. Because I couldn't see this weighing less than what the A6 600 has. So I think you're probably going to find that the weight is similar in size to the A6 600, which is good if you're after carrying around a really light camera. I had a discussion with Aaron this morning, actually, on Facebook. We were having a private discussion, and we were both saying that the size difference is not that great compared to, say, an A7 III, and it's not. And I'll show those in a minute. But the weight is quite drastically different, particularly, I suppose, if you wanted to travel light and put the light lenses on. But I suppose if you put the light lenses on the A7 III, that's quite light as well. But it's still definitely lighter than what an A7 III is. But let's look else what they're saying is going to be in this spec. And like I said, we can discuss the full thing with Aaron next week. So we're saying the weight's going to be 509 grams. What size? What is it? 124 by 71. Does that mention the size here? 121 by 67 by 69. 120 by 67 by 69. 120 by 67, 69. 120. Yeah, so it's a fraction larger, but then it's smaller in the depth. It's a fraction wider than what the A6 600 is. The size, though, really is pretty similar. Very, very similar to the A6 600. So that gives you an idea. And I think that one there gives you a really good idea because you can see it in your hand. And I think that shows you perfectly about what this has. You can see on the dial at the top through here too, you just have your manual, shutter speed, aperture, and also program mode. You've got a video mode here. You do have an S&Q mode that's directly on this. And there is also 3 memory banks written in here, and I suppose that's an auto there as well. On the top, really, you've got a record button, so they have given you a dedicated record button, but you are sort of missing one button, I think. Let me just have a look at my A6 400. No, it's sort of similar, because that would be the C1 button that you're dealing with there. Yeah, so it's sort of similar. You've got an exposure compensation dial through here, and at the back, this obviously will be to control your shutter speed or your aperture, depending on what you set it on. I think one of the flaws, and this is what I do believe one of the flaws that this model has, I really believe being a full-frame camera, they should have put a front wheel on there. You should have had the ability to have dual dials. Oh, and I noticed someone just said that, Dan. Why have a dedicated EC dial when lacking 2 dials, I think. Yeah, I agree. I really do think it's fine to have the exposure compensation dial. And look, I think where this is marketing at, and I can understand Sony's thinking here, this is marketed as an entry level, and they are marketing this, believe it or not, as a video camera. Now that tells you straight away that they're marketing this as a video camera. If you look at, this here, where are we? If you look at the ZV-1, on the front of this is a massive recording button. You probably won't see it, but let me see if I can get it off focus. I hate that. I should take it off. There you go. You can see on here that there's a massive record button. So anything that they're tailing towards vloggers and YouTubers, etc., has this sort of recording button. Anything where they're dealing with stills cameras doesn't have it. So this to me immediately says that yes, they are pushing this camera more towards being a video type camera more than stills. I mean, no, well, I shouldn't say more than stills, but it's still going to be an amazing stills camera, but they are tailoring this at a video camera. And that sort of tells me straight away. So because of that, and because of this being an entry-level camera, a lot of the people that are shooting will be using aperture exposure, and this is why it has your aperture compensation dial there, or your exposure compensation dial there, because that's what a lot of people would be using. So I can understand that. But really, how much extra would it have cost to put another dial up the front here so that you could have controlled your aperture and your shutter speed separately? And I think that's... here we go. I had to do it. I really think that's probably what they should have added onto the front of this, was that feature to be able to give you that ability to change your shutter and exposure compensation. I mean, it's like the A6600 and A6400. You can press the rotating dial at the back, push that in, and then adjust your exposure that way. But if you're trying to work fairly fast, it's awkward. There's nothing better than having those two separate dials that you could use front and back to get your exposure correct, shutter speed and aperture. So that's something that I do think it's a pity that they've missed. I do notice that they're showing that it's got stabilizing, it's got IBIS, because it actually says that steady shot inside. Oh, hang on, let me go back. It shows steady shot inside through here. So you can see that will have IBIS, and that gives you a good idea because they're saying that in the specs. So let me just come back to additional specs that they're talking about in here. So they're saying the announcement is September the 15th at 2 a.m. London time. Similar to the Sony a7 III, the 24 megapixel sensor. It's probably going to be the same sensor. It has the same a7S III articulating screen, which I love. So it's going to have that fold out screen that I just adore. If you look at this, it will be exactly the same as this, that you'll fold out, and then you can obviously push it forward or whatever if you want it to work that way. I love that. It's fantastic. And like I said, guys, it's no big deal if you don't want that, because guess what? You just close it shut. There are great advantages with this, though, that, if you're working sort of down low, you can sort of hold it that way. If you're working high, you can hold it that way. And when you close it like that, you actually can't damage the screen. So that is also a really good feature as well. So I think that's terrific. And I really do think that's a great feature. But I'm sure that same feature now will be the a7 IV. I think you're going to find now all of the cameras that are released by Sony are going to follow that new body now. They'll all have that new flip-out screen. They'll probably, this one won't, but the true a7 IV cameras, etc., will probably have the dual card slots. They'll all go with CF Express A. That'll be in there as well. Let me just go back to this. So the same articulating screen, it'll have the same touch screen as what the Sony a7S III has, etc. The same focusing algorithm as the a7S III as well. So this will focus. I mean, look, the a7 III, I've never really thought the a7 III is not a fantastic focusing camera. It is. So I think you're probably not going to notice that much difference between an a7 III and the a7 C camera. I don't think you'll see that much difference, although it'll probably have the eye auto tracking in video, which you haven't got in the a7 III. But I've never you worried about a camera not having good focus on the eyes in video. It's never, ever been a problem for me, guys. And I film extensively. So if ever you're worried about anything with the a7 III, I would never worry about the a7 III not having amazing video autofocus, because it has. And I've just showed you a video that was shot with it. So, yeah. What else it's saying? 4K 30p. So they're not giving you anything more than 4K 30p. And in a way, that doesn't surprise me because it probably would overheat. In a body of that size, I don't think there's any way they could have given us 4K 60. They're not even mentioning bit depths. I wouldn't think that this would have 10-bit. I think this is going to have the exact same video features as what the a7 III has got. Body shape similar to the a6600. Well, I showed you that with the EVF. We don't know what the resolution is going to be yet, but it's probably not going to be very good. I would think it's not going to be very good. Probably like the a6600. It's going to have IBIS, and I showed that it does have the steady shot that was on the top of that, so it'll have IBIS. The camera will be marketed for vloggers and YouTubers as well, and I've said that also because it's got that red record button. That tends to be the things that Sony have announced where it becomes a more of a video-centric type camera. It has a single SD card slot. That is not going to be a problem for the people that they're marketing this camera at. I don't think that's a problem at all. For an entry-level camera, for people just shooting vlogs, you know, blogging, doing YouTube videos where probably they're not being paid to do it, having a single card slot is not going to be an issue. So I don't think that's a problem. It's going to have both the mic in and headphone jack, Wi-Fi, and the price will be, it's over €2,000, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And it comes with this lens, which is the 28-60. Is that the lens that they showed there? Yep, 28-60 is the lens that they're showing through here as well. That's a variable aperture lens though. It's an f4 to 5.6 lens. So, you know, it is a variable aperture lens. So let's look at the size comparison between this and other cameras that are out there. So if we're looking here, this is the Lumix X7. You can see there's two different colors of that as well. So Sony are following that line with the dual color one. And I really like the dual color. I think that looks way nicer than what this one looks like, which you're dealing with just the plain color one. And you guys can let me know in the live chat if you agree with that. But I think it looks way nicer in the dual color. And I would get this one over that. It looks more like a classic, well, more like a Fuji type camera, and I really like that look of it. I think that looks really quite classy, actually. Again, you have to see it in real life, whether it's all plastic. It probably is, especially with that weight. We'd have to wait and see. So it's very, very similar in size to the GX7. Very similar in size to the GX7. If we compare it to the a7 III, you can see that here. So there's not a massive amount of difference, is there? I mean, obviously you've got the EVF, which makes a big bump at the top. But boy, if you look at the overall camera itself, there's not that much difference. So really, if you're looking at, say, carrying around something for travel or whatever, I don't really think it makes the slightest bit of difference. The only difference would be the weight. The weight of the a7 III would be more. Well, let me Google that just out of curiosity. I'm just curious to see what it is. Yeah. All right. So it's 650 grams. So basically, what did I say that was? 500. So you've got another 150 grams roughly. I mean, it's not massive, is it, at the end of the day? 150 grams more than what the a7 III is. The a7c is, yeah. So I don't think that's too much of a really big deal, really. Let me just go back to here. So I don't think the size is a telling factor at all. It just depends whether you mind having the bump in the EVF at the top. But I think that's a more practical type body. The other thing you've got to consider as well is that you're going to get dual card slots with this. So you've got to make a decision here about whether you would like to get the new interface, the new fold-out screen, which you can see down here as compared to the A6 300. You can see it's slightly higher. This is probably to allow for your battery, that battery component through here. So it's probably going to be slightly larger. So it really depends on whether you would like to go for having something with redundancy, which is like the A7 III, which is the dual card slots, probably better build. In the A7 III, because I've got a feeling that the build quality won't be as good as in the A7C. It might be. We have to wait and see. I don't know whether it's going to be all metal body or sort of a plastic type thing. I mean, whether it could be built like the ZV-1. But even the ZV-1 being made out of plastic doesn't bother me because it's a really good high quality plastic. And that really doesn't bother me at all because the plastics now are so good on these lenses. I've found that with like the Tamron lenses. So if you're going to make a decision, really, if you're a professional, I would say you have to go for the A7 III. And why I'm saying that is because you get the dual card slots. So that really answers that for me immediately. So if I was in the market for an entry-level camera from Sony and I'm a professional type user, I would get the A7 III. There's no difference in size really between these, really at all when you look at it. If you want a better camera for vlogging and say doing videos of yourself, video in general, you would be better off to get the A7C because it's going to have that flip out screen. It's going to have the new touch interface. You'll be able to rack focus like the A7S III has and features like that. That alone would make it worthwhile if you're just after more of a video centric camera and you're not being paid to do your work. So I think that sort of sums up looking at the camera for me. You're obviously going to get a much better interface, much better tracking focus. Remember, the A7 III doesn't have that. It doesn't have the touch tracking focus. Only the later models have that. The issue is the price is more expensive than what the A7 III is going to be. You're going to be able to get an A7 III for cheaper than what the A7C is. So that's something that you've got to sort of think about. I think Sony, look, they've done a good thing here in a way. It gives people choice. If you don't want to purchase the A7C, you don't have to buy it. If you do want it, you're going to have a great entry-level camera that's going to have a lovely touch interface, flip-out screen, which is way better if you're dealing with video. It's going to have better tracking, etc. But like I said, if I was still a professional photographer, I would still buy an A7 III over an A7C due to the fact that you've only got the single card slots in it and you have much more customizable buttons on the A7 III than you have with the A7C. I mean, you've got a joystick on here. You haven't got the joystick on there, but I suppose it's not such a big deal because you now have that touch interface that's much better. But you've got way more programmable buttons on the A7 III than you have on the A7C. And for me, just to have that front wheel where I can control shutter speed and aperture independently would make it worthwhile for me. And really, I wouldn't even consider the A7C for me. I would be waiting for the A7 IV. But for entry-level people, good on Sony that they've brought this out. I don't think there was anything else about that we need to look at. So let me open up the Q&A just to talk about that before we go through other news. I've got to be conscious about time too. I have to be out by 11 today, so that's another 25 minutes. All right, so let's see what people are saying in the chat because I'm curious to know what you guys are saying about this. Where were we? Let me go down. Price-wise, I think it's too expensive as well. I mean, what are they saying this was going to be? 2,300. Does it mention price anywhere? Look, we haven't got the EOS pricing yet, have we? I think it's probably going to be, what, about 1,700 US? I think the pricing on this camera should have been 1,500 United States dollars. I think anything over that, I think it's overpriced. And I noticed too here, Venom said, I would go as high as 1,500 for it maybe. I agree. I think it's way overpriced. If it gets anywhere near $2,000 for this camera, I think it's way overpriced for what it is. Mark said there is a C button on the back. Yep. When you put big lens on it, it will be unusable. Yeah, well, it's not really designed for that sort of thing, Rob. I mean, you would go with a larger camera probably, but you know, like I said, it's more designed here as an entry-level camera. I think if people were going to be buying these big lenses, they probably would be going up to, say, an A7R4 or something like that. I can't imagine it being really $2,000, maybe a premium for the size. I think $2,000 is way too expensive for what this camera is. It should, like I said, I think it should be $1,500 max. Flippy screen is great for low, high angle photography. It's just not about selfie vlogging. Yep, I agree, John. And also, Tony said flippy screen is great for talking head videos too. Langston says, I'm not making a judgment on the flippy screen. I'm just saying it feels like it's a tax just for the flippy screen. Yeah, maybe. Yes, dual dials. I think that's the main thing that this misses is the dual dials. It really does. Roland said it loses 3 custom function buttons from the A6600, 2 on the top and 1 next to the menu button. Not great for photography. And that is a problem. Like I said, missing all those programmable buttons is an issue. Langston said, hell, I have add-on monitors. I'm the last guy to go down to flippy screens. Venom said, the irony, you need the ZV-1 to properly showcase the ZV-1. Yeah, I know. Entry level, but way too much dollars. Yep. I think I fixed that, Aaron. Yep. Does the A7CZ type battery mean the Sony battery grip will work on it? No, I don't think so because it's slightly different in size. So I think it would have to be a totally different battery grip, I would say, because the body shape will be a slight bit different. You know, if you're dealing with it like that, yes, it's still going to take the same battery, but the dimensions are slightly different. So I wouldn't expect it to be able to take that same battery grip of what you've got there. TMB said super fail. I don't think it's a super fail. I don't think it's as bad as people are making out. You just don't need to buy it. If you don't want it, you just don't need to buy it. Jess said Sony surprised us a bit with the A7S III, and I wonder if the A7C has some cards up its sleeve that will surprise us. I don't think so because it's not going to need them. Are you saying that, you might be saying, yeah, I see what you're saying. There might be something up their sleeve with this that we don't know about. Who knows? There might be. There might be something special about this camera that we don't know. I'd be surprised, though, now at this stage because the leaks have tended to be pretty spot on at this stage. Langston said, I don't know. I spent $2,000 on my first drone. Aaron said, yes, maybe, Jess. Carl said, David, you need to add a large gong to your repertoire. What does that mean? For the sound, you mean? I should put a large gong, shouldn't I? Why is that? Why is it that camera makers seem to be pursuing vloggers? Basil, there are so many. This is what I keep saying to you guys. You underestimate how many people use video for their things on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. And I think you're looking at things with blinkers, guys. If you think that vlogging is not a major thing where people are filming themselves, you're kidding yourselves. This is going to be a massive market as time goes on. All young kids that are growing up are filming themselves every single day. So if camera makers don't make it easy for them to do that, all they'll do is use mobile phones and nothing else. If you're going to compete with mobile phones, and remember this is an entry level, you have to be able to have a screen that folds back and looks at yourself. And it's just the way it's going to be. Remember, the days of just being a photographer, and I know some of you hate me saying this, but the days of just being a photographer are very, very numbered, guys. You are going to have to get into video. What else? Jim said maybe it's customizable. That would help the consumer. Remember too that just because it has video features in the camera doesn't mean you have to use it. You can just use it as a stills camera. That's the beauty of this. Tony says, I will probably wait for the A7 IV. Well, that's what I'd be doing too. If I was thinking about this, I would wait a little bit longer. But for me, if I was buying a camera now for stills, I would get the A7 III. But that's me. Venom said a true entry-level person is going to see a Canon RP for $800 to $1,000 and make an easy decision. Yeah, see, that's why it is. It's way overpriced. Some horrible rolling shutter. Well, we don't know yet what the rolling shutter and everything is going to be like on this. It might have a really good processor, so we don't know. Hopefully it will have the digital active stabilization. Yeah, it probably may. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? It's got that in the a7S III, so it probably will have that. I would think it would have that if they're touting this at vloggers. Hopefully it will. What else have we got? No doubt this isn't a beginner camera at that price. Yeah, it's way overpriced. So definitely overpriced, Langston said. Yep, I agree. A7 IV will have to be more dollars. Yep, and that's the problem. I think you're going to find the A7 IV is going to be expensive. It wouldn't surprise me, the A7 IV, if it's priced a little bit under the A7S III. So you just have to wait now and see. But if this is going to be priced at $2,000, what is the A7 IV going to be? Aaron said he agreed about the video autofocus. Yeah, I don't think it's needed. Sony a7 IV would come after 2026 because the Sony a7S III and the a7c need to sell better. I am not sure, Pema, because I still think that Sony haven't answered a camera like the R6. And that's the issue here, that Sony still haven't got a competitor that can tackle the R6. And that's why I think the R4, yes, the A7 IV will come out sooner than what you think. I'm still predicting before the end of the year or early next year. What else have we got? Langston says, I think backlighting AF might be better. Yeah, I haven't noticed much of a problem with my A7 III with that, though, Langston. Perhaps I've just been lucky. Timothy said camera conspiracies will trash it. No doubt. Casey will have a bit of fun with it for sure. I hope not. A7 III is, in my mind, the most balanced video stills camera at the time. If they just update a few things, the A7 IV would sell like crazy. That I agree. But to me, all Sony have to do with the A7 IV is add the flip-out screen, the new menus that Sony have got in that camera. I'd be happy for them to keep the processor, the 24 megapixel that's in there, and give us 4K 60 with 10-bit. It doesn't have to be the massive file sizes that the A7S has. You won't get that either because they have to give you a way of pushing you from, say, the A7 IV to the A7S if you're more into video. So you're not going to get the same specs of video in the A7 IV, but you probably, I would say you'll definitely get 4K 60, but you just won't get the really high bit depths, or maybe not the, definitely not the, the 120, 4K 120. That grip material is ugly. I thought I'd never say that. I love the dual colour. I do too, Aaron. I think the dual colour is really nice. 28mm is useless for vlogging. Yeah, there'll be other lenses out though, Kevin, that they'll be able to have. 140 grams lighter, yep. What else? The Sony cameras are already so small anyway. That's right. I don't think the difference is worth it. I really don't. Hi, Tammy. How are you? Good to see Tammy's in here as well. Tammy's a lovely lady that has her own YouTube channel, which is really good as well. Check her out. She does a lot of LumaFusion stuff, which is great. Tony said Sony has tech to now make a killer A7 IV. I just hope they don't frack it up. Yeah, I know, exactly. They won't. I think that's going to be an amazing camera. With what they've done with the A7S III, the A7 IV is going to be incredible. It really is going to be the most unbelievable fusion camera that's out there. When my camera brand starts releasing suspect models, I get jumpy. What's that mean? Oh, you're talking about Sony, excuse me. No dual card, no buy. I'm the same. Well, I use that, but I'm not using this for business, so this doesn't matter. I just use this for YouTube, filming for my YouTube videos, stuff like that, so it doesn't matter. If I was doing a paid shoot, I wouldn't be using the A7S III. Sorry, this ZV-1. I'm opposed to the plastic on principle, but the principle is basically nothing. I think metal and I think of high quality. I like the feel. Yeah, I can understand that. Jim said gas, photographic law of weight savings. Any camera bag weight savings by a lighter camera body will invariably be consumed by a fast prime lens. I love it. Help me, A7 you're my only hope. Let me just scroll down here. Where are we? I'll just keep going from here. Dual dials is still an issue. I think that's the dual dials is an issue for me as well. I would love them to have put a front dial on that. Like just not having, the dial through here doesn't make sense to me. That would not have cost that much more money, honestly. And I just think because they had to redesign the grip, they should have put that into there for sure. And that is a disappointment. It really is. To be honest, not more than $12.99. I think $1,500 US is okay. And I think that would have been a fair price. But I think, what is it going to be? $1,700, $1,800 US. I think that's probably about where it's going to be. Is the XT4 not better value? Probably. Yep. No joystick is annoying. I agree with you. I think that's another thing that they've missed off. From a photography perspective, it's a stills camera, distance second. Good for the occasional photo, good quality, but probably designed for people doing everything on automatic. I think this is definitely based, they like I said, they're definitely marketing this as for vloggers and videographers. John said, Tony said video first camera. John said, David is right about new vloggers. I started at the age 66. Basil said, why not release a camera that gives you the option of buying the camera with a flip screen or the same body with a fully articulating screen? It would be too expensive, Basil. Remember, like I said, just keep it closed if you don't want to use it. I know you can't do the flip up thing, but when you need it, you can fold it out. Come in at $1,700 to get the early adapters and then drop it to $1,500. I think that probably will be the case. By Christmas, it'll probably be $1,500. Aaron said, I agree, David. Video is such a big deal now. Many photographers seem not to understand this, and that's the problem. They don't. And you need to wake up to that, guys, or you're not going to have a job. I really do believe that. Vlogging is probably where you can grow sales, while I suspect that the number of pro photographers is relatively static. Very true. Video side of things is growing massively. That's certainly where I'm booking weddings for next year because I offer video. I'm telling you guys, it works. It's a marketing thing that works. Then why release the ZV-1 for vloggers? Because it's much cheaper. What is it, $750? There's a massive price difference on that. And remember, you're talking here about a completely different camera. The sensor on this is tiny, whereas you're dealing with, this is a full frame sensor. So if you're after that full frame look, that's why you would go for this camera. People that are really, say, serious vlogging may not want to use this because this, no matter what you say about this, and I love this little camera, but no matter what you say about this, the footage out of the ZV-1 is not that much different than using an iPhone 11 or whatever. It's very, very similar because of the sensor that's in these cameras. Yes, it is different a little bit in depth of field, but it's not that much different. You would see a massive difference when you go to full frame. So having a cheaper full frame vlogging type camera is probably needed. What you might find is people will go this way. Then when they've got the money, they'll probably jump up to, say, getting the 7C due to the fact that it's similar in the way that it works, but it is a full frame camera. And then people can have interchangeable lenses. So I think there is definitely a market for both. Massive difference in price, though, remember. Brett said, stills photography will never die. In fact, I agree, Brett, it will never die, but the market now, I'm finding with my business now, I'm getting more and more people that hire me due to the fact that I do video and stills. I can tell you that's a fact. I'm booking weddings due to the fact that I offer video. The second that I offer video or say to them that I offer video in the package and then they don't have to hire a videographer, I book that client. And I can tell you that works 100%. So yes, photography will be around, but video is going to become more and more and more. If you look at kids, go onto things like TikTok, go onto Instagram, go onto things like that now. A massive component of what's going on out there at the moment is video. It's not stills, it's video. Young kids particularly love video. Kids 8 plus are videoing themselves with phone. Exactly, Leslie. They certainly are. What else? TMB Tech said, agree about the video comments, but a proper hybrid camera would be best. Gilbert said, if it's $1,500, I buy it. Rob said, you say just because it has video features doesn't mean you have to use them. True, but that is not the point. The point is that we don't want to pay for something we will not use. Well, the problem is, Rob, you've got no choice because it's too expensive for Sony to make 2 different cameras now. This is why no one does it anymore, because remember, the R&D alone is what makes these cameras so expensive. If you've then got to design multiple cameras, there's no way on earth Sony are going to produce 2 different cameras of the same model, one for video and one for stills. Not going to happen. That would be a stupid business decision. The price difference for Sony making them would probably not be that much, but you're paying for the R&D. And there's no way Sony are going to offer, say, an a7 III that has a stills version of it and then an a7 III that has a video version. It's not going to happen. In fact, a lot of the cases, they're now talking about making the numbers less. Because sales are dropping, they can't justify the number of cameras that they have at the moment. So there's no way they're going to start adding multiple cameras, one for video and one for stills. It's not. The only camera that does that is where it's really specialized, like the a7S III, and even that still takes stills. But that is more of a specialist video camera, and then you'll have an a7 IV, which will be for stills and video if you need to do both. The days of just having a stills camera are going to be gone. It's not going to be there anymore because there'll be no market for it. Basil said, that's what I was thinking. I think vlogging, and I think it's something like the ZV-1, not a full frame body, you're saying. A7 for release date, I'm still predicting by the end of the year, but I'm hoping I'm not wrong, but I'm still hoping the end of the year or early next year. Where are we? Down here. I'm hoping October, November. I don't think it'll be that soon. Sony never answered the Fuji X-T3. They didn't, or the X-T4. You're right, Aaron, they didn't. Jim said, Rob, tell that to US cable TV providers, please. Aaron said, I've never had backlighting problems with my a7 III. Yeah, I haven't either. I was surprised when Langston said that. I've never had an issue with that. A good thing about these vlogging cameras, they might be working on more vlogging-centric lenses. Basil said, there are enough gimbals behind you that I'm surprised we can see you moving at all. Haas said, yes, Basil, they should have just stayed with the A7 IV. I think they just wanted to compete with the R6. Well, this doesn't really compete with the R6, though, not on specs. A7 IV by the end of the year, but if Sony says it will exceed expectations and it won't come until 2025, I love it. Saving 150 grams on the camera when your GM lenses are over 1,000 grams is pointless. Yeah, like I said, I don't think the camera saving and size is a point here at all. It's not that different at all. Pema said, Sony A7 Mark IV have 4K 60, 10-bit 4220 rolling shutter issues. That's what I think it will probably have as well. Premium color science, they'll all be the new color science. This camera, the 7C, probably will have the better color science. I guarantee this will be better color science than the A7 III. That may be another thing that you want to consider. Unlimited recording menu limit. New menu, EVF, back screen and weather sealing. What else? D. Ogle said, looking for my first full-frame camera into hiking. Want something light and small. A7 IV for me. Yep. Why would the XT4 be better value? It's 10-bit 420. Well, it's still better at the moment because that can do 4K 60. I get the video changes in photography. I don't get the vlogging piece, but I admit I'm likely out of touch. I would think it's more balanced stills video capable system, great at both. Steve said Casey will buy the a7c instead of the a7S III. Jim said before you buy this, you need a tattoo. I've got to open this. I've got to open it. Where is it? Oh, it's, yeah. I think it's a gimbal on the camera. He's saying best GoPro action mounts. He's showing me this. Where are we? Jim shared this with me. He's talking about this GoPro action mount or something like that, but you got to have a tattoo down the bottom. He's saying, and the Harley Davidson, so I can stick it on my Harley. He's talking about because I've got a beard. I love it. Thanks, Jim. The Sony R series should never get a flippy, dippy screen. Who would buy a high megapixel expensive photo camera to make TikTok videos? You might be surprised. Let me scroll down because I need to be moving on because I've got to get moving in a minute. What else have we got? Let me just check down here. 9-minute warning. Yeah, I better keep moving. All right, let's go on to the next story because I better get through these because it's going on. I want to talk about the Canon weather sealing. What is it? 1:06. I've got to be out in 9 minutes. A few minutes, actually. 1:06:22. Now, I'll share these down below so that you can have a look at them, guys. But there's a couple of things going on here. Oh, where were we? It was Canon. Let me find where it was. Oh, this. I wanted to show this with you. There is a whole document here. Let me just move this over. Let me change back. There's a whole article about the R5, which I thought you might find interesting. It talks about the weather sealing of the R5, and it's really interesting because they're saying that it's probably the best weather seal camera that has ever been released. But there's also some interesting things about it as well. They're saying there's hacks that are going around where it shows you to put a toothpick and stuff on this little switch here that overrides that sensor so you can use it without overheating. But they're saying basically they believe that the weather sealing in this camera is so good, that's why it's having overheating problems. The heat just can't escape the camera, and that's the problem. Oh, thank you so much. Jim just gave me a donation, not to be used towards another gimbal. He gave me a $5 donation. Thank you so much, Jim. So they're saying now that because of the weather sealing on this, in fact, they said you could probably insert it in water at the bottom. It's that strong, particularly, that the water wouldn't get in. I'll leave this so you can have a read of it. But they did say something really interesting in this. They said there is heat sinks on this camera. The original thing that we were all reading, it was saying there wasn't heat sinks. But according to this lens rental breakdown, there is heat sinks that get the heat off the processors and sensors and stuff. And they're saying the build quality actually is really good. But the issue is that this little device here is very fragile. So the workarounds that they're giving to use toothpicks and stuff could break this. And this is soldered directly onto the motherboard. So if you are using these workarounds to make your camera last or overheat less and work longer, it says you've been warned that it probably will make the camera fail and you're going to have to pay for another motherboard. But there are two heat sinks now that I didn't realize is in this camera. But obviously they're saying that when they opened up the EOS R cameras, there was a lot of room on the inside of the camera. But they're saying here, if you look at it, there's none. And this is the problem. Now, because it's so well weather sealed, you can see the gaskets going all the way around and stuff. Because this is so well weather sealed, the heat can't get out. So that's the issue with this. So I'll leave that there for you to have a look at because it's a really interesting article. Now, let me just put other news. Now, in other news here as well, just to let you know too that Sony have now released the help guide for the a7s III. So now if you did want to read that, you can download it and go through the whole help guide. So if you have got an a7S Mark III on pre-order, you can get that lens, that manual now online and have a look at how the whole camera works. So that's a really nice thing as well. Also, I wanted to show this first leaked image of the new Samyang 35 1.8 lens. Is here as well. So there's some images that you can look at there. And like I said, I'll leave these down below as well so that you can have a look at that too. And lastly, in news, there's rumors that Canon is going to announce, or they're testing, an EOS R5S. And this is going to have a 90 megapixel sensor. That's incredible. And there's a whole article that you can read about that as well. So the megapixel war is still out there. So it's incredible when you think of what that's going to be able to be produced. So that's out there at the moment. And that's about it, guys. So, like I said, it was a quick show because I had to get out of here basically about now. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching today. Love it if you could give me a quick thumbs up before the show ends. Aaron and myself will have a live show next week discussing the real release of the a7c. So we'll advertise that as being out or what time it's going to be on. Probably our usual time. But we'll, like I said, we'll advertise that as well. So that should be a fun show, and we'll both sort of play off each other and see what we think about that as well. What else have we got? Oh, I have got some reviews coming up in the coming days, so stay tuned for that. I've got a great motorized slider that I'm going to do a review of, and I've also got some new lights and stuff that I'm going to review as well. So stay tuned for all of those. If you haven't watched the video I did showing all of my how I do the live videos, please watch that. There's the video before this one, so I'd love you to look at that as well. So apart from that, everyone, have a great weekend. If you're in the US near the fires, for God's sake, stay safe and have a great weekend. So I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye for now, everyone.